All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm your host, and we do this live stream about coffee most Monday through Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. We are, every once in a while, I make a mistake, right? Like today, yesterday, after we decided that we were going to do this tasting of our mucked up coffee as a cold brew, I took a thumbnail of it. And I even created a thumbnail in the editing app for the, what do you call it? For editing, right? The photo editing software. And I don't know, I just forgot. I guess I just forgot. I just didn't even think about it. And then just now, as I'm here standing here, got everything set up, and I go to look up the file on YouTube Studio to open it up and start the live stream, I realized, oh, I actually didn't set up the live stream in YouTube Studio. So I'm like, oh gosh. So I had to set it up. So that's why if you were looking for it just a few minutes ago, that's why it wasn't there, because I had totally forgotten to set up the actual stream. So hope you're doing well. Mom, good to see you. How's everything going? And Kent, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Now, yesterday, okay, we'll rewind a little bit. So if you're just joining us for the first time with this world's worst cold brew, yesterday we did a live stream about the world's worst coffee, or potentially the world's worst coffee. And what this is I had a situation where I was roasting coffee and inadvertently dropped a load of green beans into the drum before I evacuated the roasted coffee. So I mixed green with roasted and pulled it all out, cooled it all down for a week, roasted it all together again last week just to see what would happen. Right? Let's see what happened to the coffee. How bad could it be? If you look at yesterday's live stream, you'll see how bad it was. So what we did yesterday is we took the coffee, we looked at it, and here is, I'll give you a little preview of it again. Let's zoom in some. Power plant, good morning to you. And so we've got this. This is kind of what we call I call it the halo-halo, right? Mix in Filipino language, Tagalog. And it's kind of a mix of the two coffees. And if you look closely here, you can see some of them have a little bit of glistening, right? There's a little bit of glistening because those are the older coffee, the pre-roasted coffees that are getting now a week later the oils are more readily coming out of it. So it's longer roast time. Color-wise, it's all kind of a medium roast because the color hadn't changed. And part of that reason is that, I was actually a little bit surprised, but this is my hypothesis, right? Is that the green coffee we're roasting, where you have green coffee starts about 10% moisture content, and then you're roasting it, you're pushing out the moisture, right? The first application of heat is pushing out the moisture and driving it out. Then it starts to turn yellow, then to a tan, and then the Maillard reaction, after you've gotten rid of most of the moisture, it starts to brown. It starts to brown and get this brown roast, and then you bring it to the final brown that you want to have. Now, the coffee that we started with, the pre-roasted coffee, was already brown, it had already gone through that process. So now that it cooled back down to room temperature, and we mixed it with it was already mixed with the green, send it back up in temperature, it's not going to get darker because it hasn't gotten hot enough to become darker, right? Now, granted, I don't have any research that I've done to back this up. I'm just going with what I have experienced anecdotally over the years. So, but my presumption is that because it's kind of the same color, because now finally the green had caught up in color, my reaction to it. That's why they're kind of relatively even. But the giveaway is the oils that are coming out now a week post roast. Because you've got coffee now that has been exposed to heat for a very extended period of time, much longer than we would normally do. So that's going to have it's going to have an effect on it, and the effect was negative. Yesterday's taste was definitely not the ideal flavor, right? Very chalky instead of cocoa powdery. You can get those like roasty notes, but not burned, because it's not really burned. It's just beat the heck, right? Beat the heck is probably the best way to do it. Power Plant says, beef and roast. Beef, nice. Sean Brown is with us. What's going on, man? How are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. So we've taken this coffee, and so I kept yesterday's brew, which was not too, the nose has got this pungency. You know that nose when you get dark roasted coffee, like that you don't really like. It kind of got that nose. So I was hoping that maybe we could get some good performance out of it that would make it lovely, but that doesn't seem to be happening. But I thought, let's do a couple things today. We'll take the coffee, right? Because we did the brew. We did a hot brew with it using the Cathec flour dripper. And I thought, let's do some other brews just to see maybe there's a way to salvage it. Maybe there's a way for it to be utilized. In case this happens to you, how will you utilize it other than gifting it to your friends who don't know anything about coffee? Like this, while it's not ideal for maybe our purposes, right? Like, this wouldn't be like, we're not drinking this and thinking, oh, this is the greatest. This is a very pleasant and wonderful coffee. It's kind of like the coffee that your friends drink, right? That you're just kind of like, they're like, hey, would you like coffee? Like, oh, I've already had some today. Thank you. I appreciate that. That coffee that, your friends have, you could give them this. And I bet they would be like the real, they'd be like, oh, so, hey, I roasted this coffee. I thought you might enjoy it. Right? You personally wouldn't touch it. Like this is gross. Like, I'm not going to have this. I can't find a way to use it. But so you can give it to your friends. That's it. And they will love you for it. They'll love you for it. It's like many years ago when I was in cigars. Well, I've been in cigars for a long time. But many years ago, like 1997, there was a big boom in cigars. Everybody and their mother wanted to smoke cigars. And we used to get together for my friend's Thanksgiving party. A huge Thanksgiving. Massive Thanksgiving. So all of my friends were there, and they all knew I smoked cigars, but they were always like, man, bring us some Cubans, man. We want to have some Cubans. And here's the thing, right? Can you imagine, like, if you had a bunch of friends that came over and you bought this beautiful geisha coffee, right? Let's say you were out there and you're like, I'm going to buy the beautiful geisha. I'm going to spend, I don't know, $500 a pound on my geisha. I'm going to roast it. I'm going to give it my time to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. And your friends come over and they're like, hey, man, we want to try this geisha. And you're like, yeah, man, of course. This is the best geisha in the world. It's blah, 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 blah. And you did all this work to it. And you brew it up. And you give them all like a cup, right? Let's say an 8-ounce cup. And then they sip it. And maybe they drink 2-3 ounces of it. And then they put it down and they're done. You'd be upset. You're like, what the heck, dude? That cost me $500 a pound. What's wrong with you, right? So back then, you would have all these friends. And they would try. They were like, oh, we have some Cubans, man. So you smoke cigar. And they smoke. There's a kind of, people that, they're for your friends. Like, you don't hate them, right? But they're just not into it the way you are. So these would be guys that would like take a few puffs on their cigar. Let's say the cigar is about this long. They might smoke it down that much. And then they stop, they put it down, and they're done. And you're like, what the heck, dude? You're like wasting you're wasting the money. You're wasting my effort. Especially with Cuban cigars are illegal in the United States. So you have to like put yourself out there to get them, both in time, expense, and risk of incarceration. That really rarely ever happens to anyone. But it's all part of it. So instead of having, I think I might have done that once. And I was like, what the heck, dude? What's going on with these people, right? So the next time they were like, man, bring some Cubans. I was like, I'll bring you Cubans, man. No problem. So I had a box of Cuban cigars. Not that big. But I had smoked all the Cubans. It was empty, but I kept it, right? So I went to my local tobacconist here in Baltimore, a place at the time was called Rolling Road Tobacco Warehouse. Great little shop. Unfortunately, it closed quite a few years later. But the guy had these bundle cigars, and bundle cigars are cheaply, they're just bundle cigars. They're not terribly expensive. They're decent enough, right? And so I brought the box to the shop, and I was like, they're like, what are you doing? So they had all these bundles in different sizes. So I just basically was like taking the bundles and seeing which bundle fit the box the best. Right? And the guys were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and I explained it to them, what I just explained to you. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, good idea. So what I did is I took that bundle, found the right one that fit, took it home, opened up the bundle, laid into the box, get to the party that night, and the guys are all like, man, you bring us Cubans? I'm like, yeah, man, I got your Cubans. They had a great time. They smoked maybe 25% of cigar, put it down. It cost me like maybe $20. It's like, that's all right. That's all right. Not too bad. Not too bad. So this is the equivalent of that Cuban cigar experience. You give them this coffee. They love it. They think you're amazing. And you wouldn't touch it. You're happy to look like the hero, right? This is some strategies for you to think about. Russell's with us. Good morning, Russell. How are you? Power Plant says that's how the majority of the population feel about Blue Mountain and Kona coffee. They only care about the name value. It's true. But, there is some value to those, I think. Like, for example, a lot of people will, especially those who've been to Hawaii, they love the Kona. And there is some nice Kona. And Kona, and generally speaking, Kona's relatively benign. It's relatively approachable. It's very approachable coffee. But I think, a big part of that Kona draw is that, you're in Kona, you're on vacation, you're cruising around the islands, you're like, oh, it's beautiful weather. I've got my, either Mustang convertible or I've got like a Jeep Wrangler and I'm driving around, I'm having a great time, I'm going to the beach, I'm looking around. I mean, you could eat almost anything in that scenario and you're just going to love it because you're just in a beautiful setting. So I understand that. And then they charge a lot of money. But as long as people, but at the end of the day, like we talk about here, for us, coffee is pleasurable hedonism, right? It's just about enjoying the coffee. If you enjoy it, what does it matter how good qualitatively the coffee may be to others, right? It's just a matter of like, did I like it? I liked it. Good. Do I need to explain it? No. Like we talk about how coffee tastes and different flavors, but does it matter at the end of the day? When you're drinking by yourself, does it matter if you sit there and I taste kumquats and there's a bit of grassy notes and a layer of Cabernet Sauvignon? Does that matter? I mean, if you like that and that's what you're looking for and you're like want to, enjoy that aspect, perfect. But if you don't, and you're just like, it tastes good. I like it. I want to have cigarettes with it in the morning as I sit outside. That's perfectly fine too. Power Plant says, are you ready for the impending heat wave? It looks pretty bad. I've heard there's going to be a heat wave. One of the guys on my cigar and coffee live stream last night was like, it's going to be 3 digits next week. 3 digits? I'm not prepared for that. Well, I was thinking maybe I need to go out to my air conditioning compressor. I've got this industrial can of like air conditioning cleaner. So, like you guys all have air conditioning, I'm sure. So, the air conditioning coils, right? They're these coils. So you have to pull the shroud off the coils and the coils will get dusty, right? But this stuff, you spray it on there. You let it sit for like a couple minutes, and then you can hose it off if you want. I don't think you even need to hose it off. You just spray it on, and it just kind of melts that stuff, and it cleans your coil so that you can get good airflow. I'm just worried about like what am I going to do in the workshop, in the wood shop, right? The wood shop's in the garage, and it's blazing in there. So it's blazing in the summer, cold in the winter. Just not. And at least in the wintertime, I can, I have a heater that I turn on, but like there's no air conditioning, just fan. It's just in the Philippines we call it pawis. When you sweat, it's called pawis. So all you have is you're just accompanied by your pawis. And they used to make a joke years ago before, nowadays we have automatic cars, right? Automatic cars, no more stick shift. You can't get stick shift in America, only in Europe and other places. Here in America, only stick shift. And we have power steering. Everybody has power steering now, right there. Can you imagine? Those of you who are old enough to have driven cars without power steering, you remember it's like if you're driving slow or you're in the parking lot, you're like turning. Filipinos in the Philippines had this funny term for it. They called it, they don't have power steering, they have pawis steering. So you pawis, sweat, right? Pawis steering. Silly. Dad jokes back in the 80s. You know, that's what you have here. Bruce is with us. What's going on, man? Good morning from Guadalajara, Mexico. Oh, wow. And be proud of you. My first cigar through. Oh, very nice. Very nice. What did you have for your first cigar? And how is Guadalajara? One of my very dearest friends, Adriana, lives in Guadalajara. Like, I was in Mexico City back in 2018. I was there for a concert, and the concert had I had scheduled a trip to Mexico City for a concert. The concert was canceled, but I couldn't change my reservations for my hotel or my flight. So I was like, well, I guess I got to take it. So I took it, and I'm there for a weekend and with nothing to do. And she used to live in Mexico City. And so she was like, she was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just kind of hanging out. She was like, come visit us, because you know her husband and her daughter Hannah are there. And I was like, what? All right, I'll go. So I jumped the flight to Guadalajara for a day, flew back. Actually, it's one of those times where I'm like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I see this dude every once in a while when I'm traveling. There's a guy that I envy. We could be going around to the other side of the planet. There's sometimes this guy that just goes on board the plane. Maybe he's got a clutch. No roll-on, no bag, maybe just a clutch. Maybe just a newspaper. Maybe just a passport holder. But he's got nothing. And I'm like, who is this dude that's going to like we could be flying to Asia. I'm like, who is this guy that has nothing? Like, I've got bags and backpacks, and I'm all like, I'm ready to go. I've got check-ins galore. And I'm like, man, this guy's got nothing. And I was like, what is it like to fly like that? How could I fly like that? Like, this is the guy that has a house wherever he's going, and he's got all of his stuff there. So he doesn't have to bring anything with him. So he can go from here to there with no burden. And I'm like, what? How can I be that good? But so that day that I flew to Guadalajara, I was that guy. I was like, oh. I went with I brought my passport. And I think I brought a little clutch bag. Did I bring? No, I don't have a clutch bag. But maybe I brought a passport. And that was it. And I was like, I'm that dude. It was so amazing. Like, can you imagine traveling without anything? You're like, oh. Now, if I had forgotten, now in my case, had I not been able to make the flight back, I would have been kind of hosed because, you know, I use a CPAP machine and I left it at the hotel because I was like, I'm going to be that guy today. It would have been misery for like 24 hours, but, you know, what can you do? What can you do? PowerPoint says, I remember in Sacramento when I was in the 120, when it was in the 120s for 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Is it supposed to get that hot? And are you going to get that kind of heat too in Japan, or is that just going to be here in the United States? Russell says, Thunder Mountain Kona coffee is good. Oh, I have not had the Thunder Mountain. I used to buy from a place called Pele Plantations when I first started out. Wonderful place, nice coffees. A guy named Gus Broxson owned it at the time. Now there's a new owner. And then one of the ones that I know about that's very, very well regarded is Hula Daddies. One of my friends, Miguel Meza, used to do work, or I don't know, maybe he still does work with Hula Daddies, but he was always like, this is something really, really beautiful. And I've toured Hula Daddies and I got to try their coffees. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, but there's so many. There's like over 600 growers in the Kona district alone. So there's a lot. There's so many to try. And it's very difficult to try them all, to know. You just kind of have to, just like with any growing region, you kind of find your way to people that you like, either their quality or you like them as a person and you gravitate towards them and you just build a relationship that way. Busa says cigar was a Perdomo. Very nice. Right? That's a great cigar. That's a great cigar. Powerplant says watching Mark Wien's adventure through the Philippines. I guess you're watching it right now. Watching Mark Wien's adventure through the Philippines, he spent a long time on Mindanao Island, went to Marawi and other Islamist regions. That's interesting. I would like to see more of that. When I was the last time I was in Mindanao, I flew down to. Here's my crazy thing. Like, I don't. While I'm babbling on, let me just stop adjusting my shoe. But let us also start preparing our drink, right? So we've got the coffee, and I've made a cold brew from yesterday's show. I've got it in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour it through this filter. and filter it out so that we can try it. So I'm going to use this, what do you call this? The Catholic flower dripper and the Catholic Abaca filters. We're like on the Catholic flower and sometimes and the odd use of the Deep 27 kick this past week. So I'm going to shake it up so it kind of suspends the grounds into the liquid, and then I'm going to kind of pour it. Hopefully we'll get not too much stalling happening. Although I expect that we're going to have stalling, because anytime you do this, there's always stall. Oh, good Lord. There's always stalling going to happen. Right, so as you can see, it's slowing down tremendously than it normally is. But we've got most of it out, got all the liquid out. And now we're just going to let that drip and do its thing. But like I was saying, the last time I was in Manila, I decided that, I'm going to leave Manila. And I know my family is from that part of the country, and so I never really leave that area. And I love Manila. Like, I love to hang out there and go out and have a lot of friends there. We get together. Like some of my friends and I, we get together almost every night. Almost every Monday through Friday, we will hang out. Then even on Sundays when the cigar lounge is closed, and we don't get together till like 10 o'clock. After 10 o'clock is when we all get together. So even on a Tuesday night, it's like 10 to like 1 a.m. You're like, wow, this is just, which is brilliant, because I get to do everything that I need to do, like during the day, and then at night, it's just like, hey, we still have a whole hanging session to do. So it's very nice like that. I'm very much like, oh, all right. Okay, let's see here. How's it coming? It's coming. It's slowing down, but we could do some stirring action. But like I said, finally, I decided that I never leave the capital region. So I was like, I'm going to leave the capital region. I'm going to go and visit some friends in Bacolod. Thomas and Bombi own a coffee company down in Bacolod, and then one of my cousins owns a resort in Dumaguete, which is all on the same island. So I decided to go do that. And then one of my dearest friends, Z, who's a coffee producer, she's like, you need to go visit Cebu. She's like, Cebu has the best coffee shops. I was like, all right. I was convinced. If a girl tells me to do something, I'll probably go do it. Right? Jump off a bridge. All right. How high should the bridge be? So I went to Cebu, tried a couple coffee shops, had a nice time. Very nice. But finally, but what I'm saying is that I went to this at my cousin's resort. They had this, at the restaurant. So at the restaurant, I'm looking through the menu, all these Filipino foods, typical adobo, pancit, and all this kind of stuff. And then they had this one dish called chicken pianggang. Pyanggang, Pyanggang. And I was like, Pyanggang, what is that? Sounds North Korean to me, right? So I don't even think I asked the guy what it was. I was just like, I've never heard of it. I have no idea what it is. I will order it. So I ordered it. And basically it's this chicken dish, stewed chicken that is in like some coconut milk with spices, turmeric, and other stuff. But the key ingredient is that it's got burnt coconut. So they take the coconut, the meat of the coconut, they take it out, they break it, and they roast it. And I don't mean they don't just roast it, they fire char this thing. Like, I actually made it later because I was so into it. But you fire char the coconut meat, and then you mix it in a dish. And man, it was so good. Like, when you're in a culture, when you're a part of a culture, right? Like when it's your ethnic culture, you're like, you kind of have this little bit of hubris. You're like, I know all about my food. I all know about my culture. I embody it. I am it, right? And then you have something that your culture that you've never had from a whole different region. This is from the Mindanao region. And this is why you mentioned Mark Wynn, so this reminds me of it. Never even heard of it. But oh my God, it was so good. I was like, oh my, I'm sitting. I don't know if you've ever had these situations where like you're doing something and it's like a revelation. Like it's happened to me a few times. Like one time I was at a place called Antonio's in Tagaytay in the Philippines. We were looking at the menu, and on the menu he had this thing listed, herb salad. So herbs as a salad. I was like, that sounds disgusting. That sounds weird. Like herbs as a salad. Why would I want that? But then the owner, Tony Boy Escalante, was a good friend of my friend who had brought us there. So he came out to me and he's like, can I cook for you? All right, well, the chef wants to cook for us. I always take that. I always say yes to that. One of the first dishes he brought was that herb salad. And I tell you, when I sat there, I was like, oh my God. Like, it was like, revelation. Like, I was like, oh my God, revelation, right? I want to recreate that, but I don't remember what was in it. I should have taken more photos. Another time I was in 2013, I was in North Carolina. I was in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Went to a place called Wilbur's Barbecue. One of my good friends, Anthony BREW, who owns Volta Coffee in Gainesville, he's like, you need to go check this place out. So I happened to be down there. Actually, I was in Colonial Williamsburg for an event. And I was like, well, it's only 3 hours away. So let's just go drive down there and go check it out. So I drove down there and I ordered their whole hog barbecue. So they take this whole hog and they smoke it. But the smoking in North Carolina is not like smoking in Texas, right? It's kind of, instead of like Texas where they're using the wood as a smoking medium to make the barbecue, to flavor the barbecue, in North Carolina, they don't really worry about that. They take the wood, they burn it down to coals, and then they put it in the pit. So it's the residual heat that cooks the meat rather than the smoky heat, if that makes sense. It took me a while to understand that. But they take the whole hog, they chop it up. They chop in some bits of the skin that's now crispy. They do this mix of vinegar and like chili peppers. And this one, I got the plate that had like a big barbecue, whatever, baked chicken and the whole hog barbecue. And I sat there at the booth, and it was again revelation. I was like, oh my God, this is just. So it's kind of like when I first had the Ethiopian Harar in 2003 at Stumptown, Portland, on their 2nd Avenue, the one downtown. And they were like, here's this blueberry coffee. And I was like, so much like that's what happens. That's what happens. At least that's what happens once in a while in my life. It's like craziness. Booster says, down here visiting wife's family. I like it here. Ooh, nice. Nice. Ooh. Are you going to go do some tequila jumping? I hear that, because my Adriana's always like, you come back down, we can go look for tequilas. And I was like, it's like, I'd like to go tour that. Power plant says, I ought to have some, I thought, I didn't even think about that till this morning. Okay, so we've got fully drained. So let's take this out. Again, what I like about this is that I can just take this filter and throw it away. I don't have to worry so much about cleaning it. I just rinse out the brewer. Okay, so now we've got head-to-head. This is yesterday's brew. This is today's. And we can see what is the difference between the two. Now we're going to use our cupping glasses here today. We'll do some cupping style with it. Why not? Why not? Why not, right? Okay, so relatively similar color. Coffee Cove's with us. What's going on, Coffee Cove? How are you? On cold brew, I gave up using paper filters as the fine smudge would always be quick clog of the brew. Not saying for others to not. No, I totally hear you in that. And I only use this. I mean, I thought it'll be all right. And it didn't seem to be too bad today because it's such a small quantity. And one thing that I found to kind of help alleviate that is to maybe, and I didn't do it this time because I had sloshed it around. But if I didn't slosh around, I would typically scoop a lot of the grounds into the filter first and then pour. That would hopefully catch some of those superfine particulates that clog the filter. Yeah, but I hear you. I totally hear you. And we got pretty good results here. Like this is fairly clear. Like look at that. That's fairly clean. But the small, like only like maybe 12-ounce quantity that we have helps that in its delivery. So let's try this coffee here. This is yesterday's brew. I'm gonna use 2 spoons, so I don't have to worry about rinsing. So we've got gold from yesterday and silver for today. So here we go. Here we go. God. You could not have come from my loins. Where did that quote come from? Initially, I wanted to say that this was better. And in some ways, I don't want to ruin my Ariat shirt here. Well, that's not Ariat. This is another brand, but this is my Western shirt. They're different. The way they brewed has a different impact on the actual taste, right? So this is a little bit softer. But is it better? Probably not. No, God, no. Oh man, those are brutal, man. Those are brutal coffees. Holy smokes. Actually, power plants are, you should have milk and sugar. And you know what? Probably would help. But only would help if I had to drink it. And that's the beauty of this. I don't have to drink it. Like, if I had to sit here and drink the whole day, be like, I could. It could help. It could help. But gosh, brutal. Power plant says, you see intentional charring of food in areas where food preservation can be. Oh, that's a good point. That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. So the Pyongyang, where they do this charring of the coconut to add to what I would describe as maybe like an adobo, without necessarily being adobo, without the vinegar. It does have vinegar, so it could be kind of like their version of it. Filipinos love this adobo thing, so and Filipinos fight about it. Like my mom's adobo is better than yours. No, my mom's adobo is better than yours. But really, it's just whatever you grew up with, right? And there's so many ways. If you were to go to like every family and have them make you pork adobo, it'd be very different. It'd be like so many variations. You'd be like, what? Some people like the more saucy, what we call sabaw being saucy. They like lots of sabaw. My cousin loves sabaw. I'm kind of like both ends, right? Like I like the dry. Like if I'm making it now, I'm going to make it a little bit on the dry side with more of like a demi sabaw, right? A demi glass of sabaw. So it's like nice and concentrated and like a syrupy. So when you drizzle it on your rice, right? You drizzle the sabaw on your rice so that you can like flavor the rice. You have to kind of mix it hard to get it like to coat all the rice. Whereas the liquid sabaw kind of like is very liquidy, so it's easier to disperse into your rice. Oh, God, I should go make some. Malcolm, how are you? Good to see you. Coffee Cope says, I use a mesh strainer over a largemouth pitcher, then a stainless steel brewer with a finer mesh filter, and do pulse pour. Oh, nice. Need to rinse it out in between pours as it may clog some and get decent char. Nice. Yeah, that's great. Good morning to you, Paige. Okay, so yeah, the cold brew doesn't help. No. That's not helping. So cold brew. How about espresso, right? We talked yesterday maybe about doing espresso. I think it was Keone that said, what about espresso? All right, let's try it. So I didn't have the machine turned on yesterday, so I got the machine turned on today. So we're going to go to the espresso machine and see what we can see, because you know what? I can't grind with this grinder, the OGen 2, because I think it's still seized. I haven't done anything since yesterday. And I thought earlier, maybe I'll bring some screwdrivers here and see if I can make it work. But let's see. Nope, still seized. maybe later or tomorrow or something like that, as kind of like a bonus. Maybe we'll take this into the workshop and do a bonus stream trying to see if we can unclog it. All right, let's have a look at the espresso here. We've got our machine all set up, our La Valentina E61 with the old school Mauser Major auto grinder, right? I was doing training yesterday for one of our clients at the food market in Columbia, Maryland. New barista training, and it's kind of funny because I really enjoy doing the training because it always makes me work harder to think about what's the best way to explain what we do and how to make it readily understandable while still trying to promote high quality standards, right? And on new equipment, right? They don't use anything like this. They use the X54 as well as the E65 from Melkoning as their grinders. So very different grinding experiences. But I think that, I do still like that, even though we use that, I still think that this is a great way to learn because it really kind of like shows you the mechanics of making espresso so that you really, so when you finally move to like those fanciful grinders, you really have a better understanding of what's going on, right? And it is as a training standpoint from operations, like those grinders are so much nicer than this, right? In so many ways, like grind quality is very similar, but more importantly, it's so easy. Like once you program it, like for them, we program it for 19 grams of coffee. You just take the portafilter, you put it in the machine, and you let the portafilter go, and it grinds 19 grams, and then you're done. Right? All you got to do is do some distribution and tamping, and you're pretty much finished. And it's like so much nicer than having to train baristas to understand the full grinding aspect of it, how to dose, and then when to stop, right? How you don't waste too much coffee. That's always a challenge. It's always a challenge, and it's not a horrible challenge. It's not impossible because we've trained many baristas to do that. It's just it takes longer, right? So I can accomplish in 3 hours what would take me, probably in years past would have taken maybe 9. So in that respect, very, very, very nice. So let's put our coffee in here. I probably shouldn't put too much in there in case I really hate it. I might really hate it. Although it's my coffee, so it should be amazing, right? It should be amazing. Power Plant says, is the ode still dead? Yes, the ode is still dead. Still dead. Coffee Cove says, then pour the brew into a Royal Nitro brew. Oh, with a whipped cream charger cartridge for a dark brew. Nice. Do you just do one cartridge, or can you double charge those? Meaning once you charge, like on an ISI whipper. I have one here. Like on an ISI, I can double charge the nitrogen. Right, you screw it in, and then you take it off, and then you grab another one, and you double charge. Can you do that on those nitro kegs? That'd be kind of nice if you could. Oh, there's not that one. We want to go back to our espresso machine. All right, so we got the coffee in here. Let's do some grinding. Oops. Gotta replug that back in. Okay, there we go. A little bit clumpy, but that's all right. We're just gonna spread this around. The difficult part that I have, trying to get new baristas to, when I'm doing my distribution like this, right? I'm actually keeping my fingers. I'm actually doing it a little bit more dramatic than I would be in normal, but I keep it like this, and I'm touching both sides of the basket, so as a reference point, so that I don't gouge into it, because I really don't want to do any tamping on it. I just want to move it around, right? And then that's actually really difficult to trade. And then flush this out. bit tight. Oh, it's definitely tight. It's tight. It's tight. So I haven't changed the grind since. We're just not going anywhere. I haven't changed the grind settings since the last time we did it, and it was ideally there. Now we have had. There is now different temperature changes as well as probably humidity changes that may be affecting that. But also this coffee is, so we're getting heavy resistance. So it's very fine. So maybe the coffee is, because some of that coffee is over roasted. So it's very brittle. Yeah, look at that. There's like nothing going on in that cup. How's our puck? Yeah, the puck is all moist because it's not getting anywhere. Here, look at this one. At the bottom, it's not even wet. That's how much resistance there is. Okay, so we're going to make some changes to our grind. We're going to go coarse. And the nice thing about going coarse when you're adjusting your grind is that you don't have to turn the machine on. You can just adjust. And now this has very fine adjustments, right? So if you go really far, you're making quite a dramatic. So normally I would go just a little bit. However, this is so tight that I'm going to go a little bit more. And we're going to see if that works. Now we're just grinding through whatever's in the burst so that we can try to bypass any kind of issues, or bypass what's already been ground. That's too fine. Now we should be relatively close to where we want it to be, or where we've made adjustments for. Oh, still too tight. Oh, look at that. Even pushing this off. Wow, this is very, 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 very. Look at that. That's terrible. Terrible. Got to rinse that out well because there's a lot of residual grounds in there. Now we're going to adjust it even more, like that. This is like when I first started out, and this reminds me of that. Like I would be sitting there some days, still learning the craft of trying to figure out where's the grind and chasing it. You might have noticed that I kind of vary the way that I do the distribution, and that's really dependent upon what I'm looking at. That one wasn't as dramatic, so I didn't have to do a lot of what I normally would do. Man, so much mess here. Look at this, messy. This is what I don't like about coffee making. This is why when I have my choice, I don't make coffee at home. Come on, man. We're still too tight. We're starting to come out. Okay, we're just on the verge of tightness. So I think if we would go just a little bit more, that should probably give us a good spot. But we're going to let this roll because we are getting a shot out of it. And the crema looks fairly dark. Yeah, but it's kind of nice. A little bit long. I don't know how long it's taking. It's taking a long time. We're going to stop it there. We're stopping not necessarily because it's telling me to stop it more, just because I feel like we should be stopping. But fairly dark crema. Look at that. Let's go over here. Woo. I don't know. I don't know if that. I mean, my normal stuff would be like, ooh, that looks pretty sexy, nice and dark. But the dark is really kind of unusual because it's not. It's more like dark brown than reddish brown. So I don't know, but the crema is nice. Look at that, thick. It's thick. It's thick. It's not breaking. We like that. We like to see that. Okay, let's have a taste and see how this double roasted mix of coffee will taste as espresso. We've already tried it hot. We've tried it cool down, and now we tried a cold brew, and it's all been different but equally dismal. It's very forceful, very strong with the bitters. Like it's like if you want an espresso that is assertive, like the manly espresso for men, this is what you want to have. Like this is just like, you know, when I talk to people that are like, not necessarily call people that are like, yeah, I like espresso, I want to be nice and strong. This is strong espresso. Like this is like god awful strong, forceful, terrible. Like it's not okay. It's not terrible. Okay, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. I made it, so it couldn't possibly be terrible, right? Oh my god! Definitely a tour de force of espresso. My gosh, that is quite. Actually, it's not too terrible. Like it's super like bitter, dark, like the dark chocolate. Actually, maybe this is the best expression of this particular coffee. Like this one, I could see like actually making into a macchiato, and it might be enjoyable. Like this could be like, okay, how would, let's say if I had to utilize this in a commercial setting, I think that I would not offer it in these ways. These are just nasty, just absolutely nasty ways of expressing this coffee. I might do it this way, and I might only offer it as a macchiato, right? This could be the dark chocolate macchiato. Like I can foresee like properly steamed milk, right? So when you properly steam your milk, and maybe not even offer it like with soy milk or anything else, because I just can't imagine those would be good, right? Only as dairy milk, when you can steam it just right. So when you steam milk just right, it increases the sweetness, right? Through the chemical reaction of the heat, it actually increases the sweetness. So that additional sweetness in a milky setting, in a macchiato setting that is this ratio, 1-to-1 ratio, essentially, right? In this cup, I might offer that. Maybe I would offer that because that could be something interesting. That could be kind of fun because it's forceful, it's intense, but it's actually like the other two, pretty offensive. Like pretty much like, oh God, like this. There's something contextually about the forceful nature of this espresso that seems correct. These other two, God, they're just dark and roasty and just kind of. Yeah, especially that cold brew. It's got this weird twist to it, almost like a shrimp paste, salted shrimp paste. In the Philippines, we have this thing called bagoong, which is salted fermented shrimps, right? You take these baby shrimps and you salt them and you grind them up and you ferment them and they become this beautiful salty thing that you must add to all your dishes. It's a wonderful thing. On green mango, amazing, amazing. In a dish called kare kare, it's essential. Like the Biden administration decided that they were going to ban it in the United States. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? You're going to ban it? Now we're smuggling this stuff into the country. So I'm actually working on a smuggling operation right now to bring me bagoong into America. Because God, man, we're running out, man. We're running out. These are desperate times. And it's not just about the Trump people. It's just desperate times because there's no bagoong. You're like, what is it? I'm going to have to leave this country and move somewhere else. That's not so draconian. Not because I'm worried about getting deported. I mean, that's a side note. But, you know, it's more about where's the bagoong? So this has that kind of like at least in that last sip. Let's see. God almighty. So, the nice thing about this is that I made this coffee, so I can trash it as much as I want. Because you taste other people's coffee. Like maybe I'm also imparting my horrors from other coffees that I don't like. But I kind of don't want to. You don't want to be the guy on YouTube trashing everybody's coffee. Who's the coffee guy? Also, you're like, that coffee company sucks. That coffee sucks. This is trash. It tastes like garbage. It tastes burnt. It tastes dirty. Maybe that's all like pent up and like coming out now because I can like bash on this coffee as much as I want and nobody's gonna get upset because, well, nobody else roasted except for me. So it's like, oh, this coffee sucks. But this coffee is actually interesting. Like there's a certain focus. Like it kind of takes the bitters and focuses it. The roastiness that's aberrant in these is contextually kind of like tighter and like kind of makes sense. It actually makes sense as an espresso because I'm almost finished it, and so it must make. I'm actually surprised. I was totally expecting this to be terrible. Now, one of the things that's different about, like, let's say these coffees versus the commercial stuff that you probably have tried and you're like, oh my God, I would never try that again, is that this stuff is clean. Like the quality of the coffee being used is very high, right? It's very nice. It's this Brazil Guajupe, very clean coffee, very sweet coffee. So the base coffee that we're starting with is very nice. Whereas a lot of these commercial coffees, they're starting with aberrant coffees that already have acceptable number of defects. Right? More commercial coffees, premium coffees and commercial grade coffees rather than specialty grade coffees. So there's a distinct advantage with this coffee versus the others. Like it's not terribly appealing. These are not terribly appealing, but they're also not terribly offensive. Like some of the ones are like, you're like, good God, like it's dirty, it's defective. You taste the phenolics and all this kind of craziness. You're like, oh God. Sometimes you get tar and diesel. What? It's not like that. So in that respect, it's better. But I would think about dark chocolate macchiato. And there's no chocolate. I bet this would be smashing. I may have to start to do this roast when we open a shop again. Like, oh, we're going to do hollow roast for our dark chocolate macchiato. $15. Perfect. Paige says, I've taken to preferring light to light medium roast for all my coffee applications. I don't get a lot of crema from light roast shots. I do not enjoy darker roast anymore, even for milk drinks. I hear you. This one's not, it's not terrible. Forceful, like I said earlier. Yes. Terrible. This, not terrible. These, on the other hand. No. These cannot be. This is not how you would. Like it's nice because this is a little more intense. So the intent, this intensity is kind of over. It's just kind of coating the palate, just not as impactful. But that cold brew has a twang to it that's just so like. Even battling through the espresso flavor, it's got enough of this weird twang to be like, ah. But it's also one of those things where you're like, it's so weird. It just, okay, that's what it is. It's weird. It's a weird character. That like, at least for me, I want to try it more just so that I could understand what is it that I'm tasting because it's so funky, strange. Like, I would not categorize this as good by any means. Oh man, that's so terrible. That's so not terrible, but just like no. Russell says, I think I would like that coffee. You can call it the OG shot. The OG, I like that. But yeah, let's see. We'll do one more shot to see what happens after we pull the shot. So we're not going to make any adjustments to the grind. Although I do need to put more coffee in here. We're almost out of the coffee. Oops, wrong one. But let's go and see what happens to this. We stopped it at the right moment because there's no more residual oils. You know, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this artist named Post Malone, but his song Circles is just in my mind for the last like 24 hours. All I just sit, I'm really, as I'm talking to you and doing all this, all I'm really thinking in my mind is, let it go, seasons change and we're running in circles. So that's really what I'm thinking, which is better than, having, rosé in my mind with her apate, the apache. I probably shouldn't even say that because it's going to now inflect, and it's going to be the bug in my mind. Okay, that's too much coffee. I put too much coffee in that one. Oh, well, we're just going to roll with it. Yeah, that was too much coffee. Now it caused too much of a backup. We're going to let it roll. It's coming out, so we'll let it roll. We're rolling slowly. Patrons asking, Kent, was it you that suggested the Umbligon from Shady and Elias Bater? Oh, I don't recall that. I think that's good. We're getting a little bit of I think we're getting a little shade of blonding here. Right? Shade of blonding. Let's go look at the. No, there's no shade of blonde. But nice. That crema is like super like dark. It's like and super forth. Like it's super like thick. There's no like black showing through. That's kind of impressive. It's impressive. I make impressive espresso. That's what it's. That's what it's. Coffee Cove says, have you tried adding some bypass to the cold brew? Oh, good point. Good point. Okay, let's try some bypass to the cold brew. Okay, that's enough bypass. So a little bit of bypass. Okay, that smooths it out. Okay, that's a little bit better. A little bit better. Actually, maybe somewhat palatable now. Good suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's got an intensity. Now, the dark chocolate that I mentioned in this cup is not as intense in dark chocolate as this, but there's still a good intensity. That's pretty interesting. Now I'm starting to see a little bit of that cocoa powder character from the coffee. Okay, let's go back and see the bypass here. It softens it up. It softens it up. How about if we add bypass to the regular brew? Yeah, it does dilute it and make it softer. Although I don't think I can't say that. I mean, if I wanted to offer like a maybe another dark roast, like if I wanted to offer as a dark roast, like maybe I would offer it. I call it aberrant, right? Like instead of the Night Watch, which is our normal dark roast, I call it aberrant because it would be the aberrant offering. I don't know if I would like even with the bypass and the cold brew and the. I don't if I was to have an operating retail shop at the moment, I don't think I would offer them in these ways. Like I would be reticent to offer them this because I don't really think they're very good. Like I would definitely, if I was to offer it in a brewed fashion like this, I would call it like something like Aberrant or give it some other name and a different offering with a different notes to really let people know this is something that's unusual to try. So, you know, some of the coffees we'd offer at Spro to our guests would be different, like strange, perhaps offensive tasting coffees, right? Like something that has very extreme anaerobic fermentation, so you get really funky notes out of it. Because I think it's really interesting as someone that enjoys coffee to explore coffees outside of your realm, right? Like each of us has a particular range of flavors in coffee that we really enjoy, that we prefer. But I think that it's nice as an operator to offer things outside of that sphere. So let's say there's wash and there's natural, and then there's the semi-wash and all these other things. You know, they all kind of fall into generally accepted categories. But sometimes I want like one that's going to veer off. This would be kind of like that. We might offer this kind of thing and state explicitly what it's about. And you know, and even to the point that we would try to dissuade you from you drinking. Like if you're just a person that I love coffee, I want to drink, perhaps this is not the right coffee for you because it's such an extreme example of coffee. Like we had this one coffee from Uganda one year that we brought in. I really liked it. It had this like super blue cheese character to it, like because it was like heavily anaerobic fermented and just like to a very extreme degree. So I bought it because I really thought it was interesting. But I would never offer it to most of our guests. We'd be like, oh no, you don't want that. you can't handle this. Because you know what you don't want is like someone that's like newer to coffee or someone that's new to Spro, to you, to what you're doing, to walk in and be like, hey, it's my first visit here. What should I try? Well, how about this extreme and potentially offensive coffee that you might hate, right? That would not, somebody walks in, they walk out, they write a Yelp review. They're like, I went to Spro and it was this disgusting coffee. Who said these guys are good? You know, you don't want that, but you want, those are the kind of coffees like, and this would be the kind of coffee that you would offer to those who you built up a relationship with, those people who have come to trust in what you're doing before you offer that to them. Because I think that's really where the better conversation lies. And they can have something unique to explore coffee further than their normal path, right? Powerplant says, occasionally my cold brews can have a brothy quality. Do you have any ideas on what causes that for you? Kent says, no, that wasn't me. I think it was Robbie S. Okay. But Paige did order some from Black and White, and it should arrive. Oh, awesome. Oh, might need a little bit more, says Coffee Cove. Gotcha. Ken says, but I've had a couple of excellent coffees from the Baylors. The Baters, so you may be in for a treat with their obligon. Oh, nice. Well, good luck with that. Let us know on Monday or whenever you get it, how it turns out. Coffee Crew says, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I noticed if I stir the cold brew to get it to drain faster, it tends to bring out more astringency or weird taste, especially on dark. No, it's never overstepping. It's always the important thing about what we do here is, you know, and I hope everyone feels this way, is that, you know, I like the idea of everyone sharing their experience. It's not just about me pontificating all for an hour or whatever every day. It's really about, you know, hearing from everyone else what their experience are, because I think there's a lot to be learned from everyone, for even myself. Even though I've been in the business for quite a long time, I still am learning new stuff all the time, every day about this craft and this industry, because there's just so much you can never know about everything, right? Just from experience. Okay, yeah, totally. Powerplant says we don't want to scare normies off with the beer. Exactly. Get it. All right, Pedro, let us know. Excellent. Kelly has been watching and drinking Ava and drinking Hopia chocolate. Why must you say things like that? Is it because I eat on this show and you just want to stab me to regain dominance? Is that it? So if you guys are not familiar, Hopia is a Hawaiian dessert where you're basically taking coconut milk, sugar, and a gelling agent. What do we use? cornstarch. I think that's the base. I think that's everything. I've tried to make it and I failed miserably at it. Like, I don't know, my ratios were always just wrong. So you take all these ingredients, you put them in a pan, and you heat them up, and you stir it, you heat. Maybe I'm not heating it correctly. Maybe I don't even know the right temperature. I've only done it like once or twice. And then you stir it, heat it up, and so what that does, it activates the starch so that when you cool it, it will gel. And, instead of me trying to make it, I just go and buy it, right? Like when I'm in Honolulu, one of my very first, so there's two places, whenever I arrive in Honolulu, there's two places that I go to. That's going to be my first stop. I wouldn't even go to the hotel if I can, right? If I'm there early enough, we're not going to the hotel. First of all, I'm going to go to Helena's Hawaiian Foods on North School Street. I used to buy from Auntie Helena many, many years ago when she was on King Street. And now her nephew Craig runs the business. And they always have haupia. So what they do is after you cool it in a tray, it solidifies into like this jello kind of gelatin kind of texture. And then they cut it into squares and then they put it on your food. Like they offer it as your dessert. Man, so, like I just love theirs. Like I'm just whoosh. So that's number one. Like if I get there before 4 o'clock when they close, I will go to Helena's and order the pipikaula ribs, short ribs that are basically, they're kind of like dried with like seasoning and hung, and then they're fried. Oh God, that's like number one place. If that's closed, like if it's after 4 o'clock and they've closed, Zippy's for the chicken place. They don't have haupia. I don't get the haupia there. But so if you want to make the haupia, that's what you're doing. So what Kira's talking about is chocolate haupia pie, haupia chocolate pie. So years ago, probably in the late 90s, this place called Sunset Bakery on the North Shore came out with this chocolate haupia pie. And what it is basically a pie in like, maybe, was it graham cracker crust back then? I think it was graham cracker crust. Then they made like a chocolate pudding. So one layer of chocolate pudding, layer of haupia, or maybe it was haupia and then chocolate pudding, whichever way you want it. Oh, it must be haupia and then chocolate pudding, right? Because there's haupia is white, chocolate pudding's dark, and then they would do like little rosettes covering the entire surface of the pie of like Cool Whip, because it never broke down, so it had to be like either Cool Whip or Riches that's like structurally sound. Like we've done tests with Riches many, many years ago. We would take the Riches, which is basically Cool Whip in a bag, and we piped it out, put it in a cup, and like sat it out in the open on a back counter for weeks, and it never broke down. I was like, but if you actually use whipped cream, like you whip real whipped cream, it will break down after a while. But this pie, this chocolate haupia pie, took off like wildfire. Like everybody in Hawaii was like crazy for it. And it's super delicious. Like I'm like, oh. Every once in a while I sit around thinking I would like to have some. Maybe once in a while I might get desperate enough to try to make it. But I've had very poor results making haupia. So so you must have made that, Keone, huh? Right? Is that right? And Dana's with you. The two of you guys eating haupia pie in Thailand. That's amazing. That's amazing. A friend of mine is a pastry chef who is Thai, but has lived so he made it. Oh, very nice, very nice. Proplan says, I mentioned before, but I like to use soup bags for my cook. I remember you saying that. They aren't easily available in the U.S., but they make the process so easy. Let it steep for 2 days, lift out of the vessel, and then, one of the things that if you're in the United States and you're looking for this kind of thing, a place that you might check with is your local restaurant supply. Like here in this part of the country, the kind of mid-Atlantic area, there's this company called the Restaurant Store. They actually have a website called, their sister company is called Webstaurant.com, I think it's called. You can order these mesh bags from them, and that will work, but the mesh is relatively coarse for coffee work, so you do get a little more sediment. Something else that's a bit finer that might work if you're looking for a bag solution is Toddy. If you go to toddy.com, to the Toddy website, they will sell you their bags, and their bags work well. So what we usually do is we take the Toddy bags, put those in it, Fill the coffee put the coffee in the toddy bags, the filter bags, and then put that in a mesh bag, and then we steep that. So those are some other options that you might want to, if you're interested in trying this the style that the power plant uses. That's going to be a nice way to go. Power plant says grounds get full immersion into the water and gets bypassed at 1 to 2. Oh, nice. If no soup bag is available, I'll make a large sachet out of cheesecloth. Same principle of brewing the press. Oh, here, good. And Kelly says, I just got told that the World Coffee Festival will be in Bangkok next year. Oh, May, I think. Oh, that would be interesting. So I guess the guys from K2 are going to be hosting that. Is that right? You know what, Ben? I don't normally go to the World of Coffee unless I'm doing like a competition. But since I'm not doing competition anymore, I don't go to them at all because I'm just like, why would I go to any of those? But Bangkok, but in May, God, that's terrible. Who thought of doing that in May? That's dumb. May's gonna be blazing, right? Because I know Manila is like the worst time to go is like April to June, or actually April to October. Like typically, I'm like, oh, do I have to go there then? Oh, I can't believe it. Like my brother's going to Manila like in 2 weeks. I was like, oof. Have fun. That's gonna be my Bagoong smuggling operation, I think. I have to approach him about that. Ask him. Coffee Cove says, I will have to try the toddy bags. Not heard of that. Yeah. So basically the toddy, that's how you make regular toddy. Like if you buy the toddy like brewers, toddy, that's the bags you use. So you're going to be looking for, unfortunately, they are kind of designed for large quantities, like 5 gallons of brewing at a time. They might have smaller bags. I'm not sure. And there are probably some chat room somewhere on the internet, like maybe on Reddit, that somebody that's much more technically smarter than I am has figured out how many microns the toddy bag or similar bags are. So you could probably also just go and like, once you find that number, you just kind of search for filter bags, this micron, and then somebody probably will have it. I think one of the companies from China that I went to visit at the trade show did something similar. I don't recall though. Power Plant says the bag I use are available in Daiso, Korea, and are designed to make Korea dashi soup. Dashi in Japan. Okay, they're very fine to keep. Oh, so that's a good point. If you depending where you are, like let's say if you're like Mom and live in New York City, you could probably go to the Daiso at Riverside, New Jersey, where they have the Japanese plaza, and they might have it there. That could be. But if you have a Japanese market, they might, or a Daiso near you, that might be a good. They might have what Power Plant is talking about. All right, so it's a bit late, and I'm supposed to have a meeting with a guy from sometime between 11:30 before noon. So gotta run. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and be back again on Monday with more stuff. We're going to be doing some. Actually, we're going to be doing some stuff from Hawaii next week. I think I've got some. My cousin left me some cookies from Hawaii. We're going to do some coffee tasting from Hawaii as well. So that should be kind of fun. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend out there. Coffee Club says, "Ew, I won't be." Well, how serious could you be if you don't make fun? I can. All right, so have a wonderful weekend out there. Hopefully, it won't get too hot when you're part of the world. And have a great weekend, and see you next time.